How big does your retirement nest egg need to be to give you $3,000 a month from age 60? That's about $100 a day, and honestly, for most Canadians with their mortgage paid off, that is a genuinely comfortable life. But to make that work from age 60, you are going to need a portfolio of somewhere around $700,000. The good news is there is a clear path to get there, and in this video I'm going to show you exactly what the numbers mean, what the gap years actually cost you, and how CPP and OAS change absolutely everything. And if you stay to the end, I will share 3 specific moves that can bring that $700,000 target down by over $150,000. My name is Your Name, and I have spent years helping Canadians plan for the retirement they actually want. This video is for anyone with an RRSP or a defined contribution pension who is thinking about retiring around 60 with their mortgage paid off. Even if 60 is not your exact target, the principles here apply to almost any retirement age. So let's start with what $3,000 a month actually looks like once the bills are paid. Now this will differ depending on where you live in Canada, but as a general example, property tax for a single homeowner runs about $300 a month on average. Utilities including heat, hydro, and water come in at around $250. Groceries for one person are roughly $350 a month. That is just under $900 before you have done a single enjoyable thing. Out of your $3,000, that leaves about $2,100, roughly $70 a day for clothing, transportation, travel, and anything unexpected that comes up. Now, the National Institute on Aging in Canada suggests a single person needs about $40,000 a year for a comfortable retirement. Your $36,000 a year, which is your $3,000 a month, puts you just below that. But remember, your mortgage is paid off. From everything I have seen, most people in that position live very comfortably on this. This is not a bare-bones existence. This is a real retirement. But here's the thing most people miss. $3,000 a month is what you want to land in your bank account. The amount you actually have to pull out of your RRSP or RRIF is going to be higher because the CRA takes a cut of every single withdrawal. So the real question is not just how big does my pot need to be. The real question is, how much do I actually need to withdraw to keep $3,000 arriving every month? Now, before we get into the tax side, we need to talk about the gap years, because these are going to be the most expensive stretch of your entire retirement. If you retire at 60, your CPP does not have to start until 70, though most people take it somewhere between 60 and 70, and OAS does not begin until 65 at the earliest. So if you retire at 60 and choose to delay both to maximize them, that is up to 10 years where every single dollar has to come from your own savings. Even if you take CPP at 65 and OAS at 65, that is still a 5-year gap where your portfolio carries everything alone. Let us use a realistic middle ground. You take CPP and OAS at 65. That means 5 gap years from 60 to 65, where your portfolio does all the heavy lifting. On a portfolio of about $700,000, assuming growth of roughly 2.5% above inflation, so all our numbers stay in today's money, those 5 gap years drain your portfolio down to about $520,000 by the time you turn 65. That is $180,000 gone before any government benefit has even arrived. And that shaded area on any chart of your retirement is a drop most people simply do not expect to see. On top of the withdrawals, there is the tax. If you are pulling $36,000 a year from an RRSP or RRIF, you are going to owe tax on the full amount. With the basic personal amount federally sitting at just over $15,000, and assuming no other income, you pay tax on roughly $21,000. At a combined federal and provincial rate of around 20% for most provinces, that is approximately $4,200 a year going to the CRA. So out of every $36,000 you withdraw, you are keeping about $31,800, which is around $2,650 a month. That is $350 short of your $3,000 target every single month, and over 5 gap years that gap costs you roughly $21,000 in tax on money that used to be yours. So realistically, you need to withdraw closer to $38,500 to $39,000 a year just to land $3,000 in your pocket every month after tax during those gap years. But at 65, something arrives that changes the entire picture. And that is CPP and OAS together. The full CPP at 65 currently pays about $9,300 a year for the average Canadian, though if you have had strong contribution years, it can go higher. OAS at 65 adds another $8,600 a year. Together, that is nearly $18,000 a year of income that your portfolio no longer has to find. So before 65, your portfolio was covering the full $30,500 or so in withdrawals. After 65, the government covers $18,000 of that, and your portfolio only needs to provide about $2,500. That is a drop of nearly half in what your savings have to do every single year. And that is the rescue moment. That is when the pressure on your portfolio drops sharply almost overnight, and your savings finally start lasting meaningfully longer. Now here is the part that catches people off guard. Once CPP and OAS start arriving, your total income goes up, which means your CRA bill goes up too, because CPP and OAS together are already pushing you close to or past the basic personal amount. Nearly every dollar you withdraw from your RRIF now becomes taxable from the first dollar. Your annual tax bill on portfolio withdrawals climbs from about $40,200 during the gap years to somewhere closer to $5,000 once government benefits kick in. The net effect, though, is still massively in your favor. Your portfolio is draining far more slowly, and that slower drain is what makes the next 20 or 25 years actually work. Now, the other key to making your money last is understanding that you simply will not spend the same amount for 30 straight years. Retirement is not flat. It has phases, and each phase puts different pressure on your savings. In your 60s and into your early 70s, you are active. You are traveling, eating out, visiting the grandchildren, enjoying everything retirement is supposed to be. Your spending in these years might genuinely run at the full $36,000 a year, or even a touch more. From about 75, most people naturally slow down. The long-haul trips become less frequent. The spending drops, maybe to $28,000 a year. And from about 85, spending often falls further, perhaps to $20,000 or $22,000 a year, though it can spike sharply if care becomes necessary. If you follow that pattern from 60 all the way to 90, a $700,000 portfolio managed thoughtfully can leave you with a buffer of somewhere around $60,000 to $70,000 still intact. That is not there for a vacation. That is your safety net. Because here is the reality about care costs in Canada. A private long-term care facility runs anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 a month, depending on the province and level of care. The average stay in long-term care is about 2.5 years. That is potentially $90,000 to $180,000 at a stage of life when your portfolio cannot easily absorb it. This is the thing I find catches people completely off guard every single time. Not overspending in your 60s, but the care costs in your 80s that nobody planned for. So, what if you are looking at your RRSP right now and you are nowhere near $700,000? The most important thing is not to panic, because there are specific moves that bring that target down significantly. The single biggest lever you have is time. Every year that you delay retirement saves your portfolio roughly $38,500 in withdrawals and gives it another year to grow. Retire at 62 instead of 60, and you need approximately $77,000 less. Push it to 65, and your gap years essentially disappear because CPP and OAS can start almost immediately. The target drops toward $500,000 or even below, depending on your CPP entitlement. The second lever is part-time work, and I know this is not what people want to hear, but even 2 days a week of casual work, consulting, part-time retail, anything you enjoy, brings in roughly $10,000 to $12,000 a year tax efficiently if structured well. That drops your annual RRIF withdrawal significantly, and over 5 gap years saves your portfolio somewhere in the range of $50,000 to $60,000, while also giving you structure and purpose in the years before the benefits begin. Flexible part-time work in your early 60s is the single most underrated retirement strategy I know of. It is not about working forever. It is about bridging the gap years on your own terms. And the third lever is simply adjusting the target. Accept $2,500 a month instead of $3,000, and the portfolio requirement drops to around $570,000. That is a $130,000 difference from shifting the target by just $500 a month. So here is what I promised at the start. 3 moves that cut the $700,000 target. Delay retirement even 2 years, and that saves roughly $77,000. Add 2 days of part-time work through the gap years, and that saves another $55,000. Drop your monthly target from $3,000 to $20,500, and the portfolio requirement falls by $130,000. Together, those 3 moves can bring a $700,000 requirement down to closer to $440,000 to $470,000. That is a number far more Canadians can actually reach. On top of those 3, 2 other things I would do before anything else. First, hold 2 to 3 years of spending in cash or a high-interest savings account, so that if markets fall sharply in your first years of retirement, you never have to sell your investments at a loss to pay your bills. And second, check your CPP statement. You can do this through My Account on the CRA website. Know exactly what you are entitled to at 60, 65, and 70, because delaying CPP can increase your payment by 8.4% for every year you wait past 65. That is a guaranteed, inflation-adjusted raise that no investment can reliably match. And the most important thing of all is this. Do not wait until you are 58 or 59 to run these numbers. The earlier you know your actual target, the more years you have to close the gap. Time is the one resource in retirement planning that you cannot buy back.